This week, we got huge Dawntrail news from PAX East, a new patch released, FF14 released on Xbox, and more. Welcome to This Week in Final Fantasy XIV, your dose of news, updates, and cool or interesting things that happened in the community over the past period of time. As a little note, a lot of the Dawntrail related news from PAX East will come at the tail end of this video, because to get things out somewhat time efficiently, I've made the first half of this video in advance, and then the second half during Yoshi P's panel. Thank you for understanding. Our first piece of news is the release of Final Fantasy XIV 6.58 patch on Tuesday, March 19th. This was a fairly minor update, including end of expansion XP increases to trusts, drop rate buffs to mounts from the Abyssal Fracture, and the ability to buy the mount for 99 totems. Additional echo was added for Savage, and the removal of weekly caps for Thalea was implemented. There were also PvP changes in terms of jobs, and Crystalline Conflict Season 11 begun. More interestingly though, according to the Garland tools database alongside patch 6.58, the items and information related to the FF16 collaboration event were added to the game's files, alongside an adventure plate framers kit for Yokai Watch, signalling the future return of that collaboration as well. Final Fantasy XIV also won the Dengeki and Famitsu User Awards for Best Online Game, in which FF16 also picked up a slew of commendations. As a small reminder, worldwide data center travel to the Oceania region will begin its testing period on Monday, March 25th. There's a number of community-driven events planned as players congregate, including fishing trains, PvP sync events, and more. The Japanese Final Fantasy XIV FanFest art competition winners were showcased this week, and there's a gorgeous selection of illustrations, physical goods, and screenshots that you can look through at your leisure. I've shown a few off here, but there's a link in the description if you want to check out the full selection. The Xbox version of Final Fantasy XIV released this week, so we're welcoming a number of new Warriors of Light to the game. As a little aside, I have a suite of new player guides releasing alongside my standard content in the coming months, which you'll start seeing as of next week. So if you're an Xbox player yourself, hopefully they'll be of some use to you. One big topic of debate right now for Xbox players is the requirement to have a paid subscription to Xbox Live, aka Game Pass, on top of your FF14 subscription in order to play the game. I very much understand the frustration entirely here, and I really hope that we see some kind of rectification in the future, but I wouldn't expect it. On top of that, the FF14 subscription and MOG Station items on the platform must be purchased using FF14 coins, a new currency system which somewhat resembles Krista. Complaints are rising here because a monthly subscription costs 1300 FF14 coins, yet you can only buy it in increments of 500. It's a very awkward system that I'm sure many are hoping to see some updates for going forward to make it more friendly and usable to the regular player. Now we move on to PAX East news, because quite a lot happened over the past few days. Firstly, the FF14 and FF16 crossover collaboration will be taking place sooner rather than later, as confirmed at the PAX East Final Fantasy XVI panel, which also showed off a trailer for the second 16 DLC. The collaboration event is slated for early April, putting its release date on April 2nd. Yoshida confirms at the start of his panel the growth that Final Fantasy XIV has seen with each expansion, with 4 million subs during Heavensward to 10 million in Stormblood, 18 million with Shadowbringers, 25 million with Endwalker, and then all the way up to the current day where Final Fantasy XIV has hit 30 million registered accounts. He also discussed their concept for Dawntrail's content. Their focus is on the multiplayer aspect, refining that content partially through an increase in large-scale duties that the game has to offer. This means content in the same vein as Eureka or Bozja. They also make it clear that they will not neglect small-scale content, continuing offerings like the variant dungeons, but that this time they will run more in parallel than one being left by the wayside. They also mentioned wanting to increase the fulfillment of the gameplay experience, specifically citing hitbox sizes being very large, so for battle mechanics the mechanics are too similar or repetitive. For some, him included, he thinks this can be mundane. They want more gimmicks, more unique mechanics, they want to encourage to build strategies and communicate with their party. He wants the team to take on more challenges and risks in their designs. He also wants to improve player rewards and increase the amount of rewards in patch content roughly to the sum of 1.5 times the current rewards by patch 7.3 approximately. He then recapped the content that will be included in Dawntrail that's already been announced, so I won't go into it in detail here. The Dawntrail release date is also confirmed. Early access begins on June 28th, with full release taking place on July 2nd. As a note for newer players, assuming you pre-order the expansion, you will have full and complete access to it on June 28th, so you can essentially treat this as the release date for the game. Yoshida also showed off the physical collector's edition of Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, including a Viper statue, an expanded map of Eorzea, a copy of the Unending Journey as a journal so that you can write notes in it, a leather-looking stationery bag that can be rolled up and looks very, very nice, and the box including some beautiful art by Amano himself. The collector's edition also comes with 3 digital items included: the Arc Mount, in which they showed a really flashy trailer for it, a wind-up Garnet minion, and a Chocobo Brush Pictomancer glamour weapon. Purchase options for the game, including a collector's box specifically for the physical merchandise, were showcased, and exactly what they include was specified, and you can see that on the screen. They also showed off the updated and final minimum and recommended specifications for Dawntrail on both PC and Mac, so if you need to upgrade your system in the next 3 months in order to play the game at its fullest, I would make that a high priority because you don't have too much time left. The pre-order bonuses for Dawntrail have been confirmed in the form of the wind-up Zidane minion and a pair of Azima's earrings, which as usual includes an XP buff and scaling stats for catch-up alongside it. I would assume, though it hasn't been explicitly confirmed, that these will increase your XP and stats all the way up to level 90. Pre-orders will begin on March 26th for Dawntrail, which at the time of recording is just a few days away. It's important to note that if you pre-order the game, you will get access to the pre-order bonuses as soon as possible. You do not have to wait for the expansion itself to launch. So if you want to play the game at some point and you plan on pre-ordering, there's no harm in doing it ASAP. So that's all the news as of Saturday evening. I'm sure in the coming days and weeks we'll get a lot more as the lead up to Dawntrail's release and hype cycle begins. So please look forward to it. I will be as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you're looking forward to Dawntrail just as much as I am. Just as a little note, I put it in the description, I made a decision based on the last episode and this episode of This Week in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not changing the name, and I will keep publishing this video whenever there is enough news to warrant one, so you know that every time you click on a This Week in Final Fantasy XIV video, there will be something interesting and worth your time. I'm not going to force one out every single week just to get one out if it's uninteresting, and also if somehow enough news happens that I can post 2 in a week, I'll do so as well. I'm just going to post them as and when I feel they're appropriate. And I think in this case it kind of is. Thank you so much for watching once more, have a good day, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.